Introduction. Part 1. Unlocking the higher purpose hidden in your DNA. St. Benedict's Eyes. It was a perfect autumn morning. The golden sun was just coming up over the Sibruini mountains, lightly brushing the hoary frost from the earth's sleepy eyes. One of the nuns let me in through a side gate, and in my halting Italian, I asked her the way to the sacred grotto. Kindly and without any words, she led me through a maze of monastic passages and down countless sandal-worn steps, until finally I stood in that most magical of places. For the next 2 hours, I lay with my head on the same stone pillow where a humble hermit once spent his life in a daily vigil, waiting and praying for a vision of God. After 3 years, his vision was granted in a thunderbolt flash from the heavens. He emerged from his inner sanctuary and in time founded the greatest and most successful Christian monastic order in history. His name was St. Benedict. I tell this story because as I lay upon that cold stone slab, I too experienced a vision, or at least the reflection of a vision. Suddenly, and without warning, I saw a pair of eyes looking at me. I have no recollection whatsoever of a face around the eyes, but as long as I live, I shall never forget those eyes. They were the eyes of one who has seen the truth, brimming over with the profoundest love and knowing. A single string of familiar words accompanied the vision and rang out like a mantra inside my head. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. These were, I knew, St. Benedict's eyes. Many new things begin with a vision. The thing I have learned about all true visions is that they are not limited to a single event. Once the initial download has occurred, the vision begins its real purpose, to transform you into the heightened frequency of the original experience. This book sprang up around a vision, and it conveys, in as much as words can, the core of that vision. The vision I personally received came long before the experience of seeing St. Benedict's eyes. It came to me early in my life, and I have carried it secretly inside me ever since. I might better say that the vision came out of me rather than to me, because as the book will testify, our destinies are written inside our very DNA. Like St. Benedict's vision, my own was a direct experience of the perfection of all creation. I too saw the future in my vision, but I saw it as already having occurred, which gave me the same conviction that I glimpsed in the hermit's eyes. This book, then, affords a view through the universal eye, the eye that has already seen the beauty, wonder, and certainty of the future of humanity. We are entering a new solar age, and, like the sun, the gene keys offer nothing but optimism. What is your higher purpose? You are a living genius. Every human being is born a genius. I am not just saying you have the capacity to be a genius, but that you are one right now. Your higher purpose in life is to share your particular genius with the world. But what is genius? The original root of the word refers to a kind of overseeing spirit or guardian who looks after a person. It also has a clear connection with the word gene, which is one of the reasons it has come to be associated with certain special people with a genetic hereditary gift of intelligence or intellect. Today, when we think of genius, we generally think of it as intellectual prowess, as for example in the case of Einstein. I would like you to understand genius in a new way. To begin with, you don't have to be intellectual to be a genius. Genius describes you living at your zenith. It is you living your life without holding anything back, owning and therefore transcending your fears. To be a genius is to have the courage to live life with an open heart as a deep romance. As you journey through the gene keys, you will be traveling through all the great human lives. Although their names may not be mentioned directly, you will recognize what it takes to live a great life. A great life does not necessarily mean a famous life. Out of all the people you know, think of a person you truly admire, not for their deeds, but for their character, their patience, their tireless optimism, their courage. Genius can thrive in the most mundane of environments. Your genius simply makes you a truly joyous human being. That is your higher purpose, to be radiant for no reason other than being alive. Your genius can only emerge out of that inner radiance. If it doesn't make you truly joyous, then it isn't your genius. Your genius is the soil, and your higher purpose grows out of that soil, whether it turns out to be a humble herb, a delectable fruit, or a great oak tree. The gene keys are the gardening manual that will guide you through the growing process, but the seed is already there inside you, waiting inside your DNA. You may also notice from the name of this book that the process of living your higher purpose has much to do with the notion of keys and locks. This is because your DNA is an actual code, and that code can only be unlocked when you have the right keys. We will learn more about how this works later on, but for now, it is important to realize that you have in your hands a code book whose sole purpose is to guide you into the field of your own genius. The universal keys are in your hands, but only you can discover the right keys and the correct order in which they fit your specific genetic code. It is a wonderful puzzle for each of us, and only our hearts can show us the way. The process of unlocking your higher purpose is one of turning the authority of your mind over to your heart. This alone will transform your life. A voyage of letting go. The gene keys are presented to you as a voyage that will change your life forever. For me, the writing of this book has been an act of inner dedication and transformation. The transmission contained in each of the 64 gene keys has unlocked a new interpretation of my own genetic code at a cellular level, which has revealed my true higher purpose to me. Greater possibilities have awakened inside me, and a new and higher frequency continues to draw me out and beyond the negative patterns that we all carry through life. This has not always been easy. Much of the language and understanding of the gene keys is rooted in our unconscious fears. As you will discover for yourself, such fears are so tightly woven into your DNA that it takes real courage to confront them directly. However, fear is the raw material of the higher states, and it must be passed through. As the first recipient of the gene keys, I have learned a few things that I wish to pass on to you, my fellow intrepid voyagers. The first is that the gene keys represent a living energetic field that exists at all times inside you. They are a wild wisdom rather than a systematic, logical process. This has been personally very challenging for my mind because I have discovered that there is no set pathway through your inner being. You have to work out these teachings for yourself, inside yourself. There is no guru or guide to show you the way. There is no technique unless you invent your own. There are simply gentle pointers which I will continue to share with you throughout this introduction. For me, the gene keys are more about dismantling concepts rather than adding any new ones. At the end of the day, the transformation happens of its own accord, simply because you are ready for it. My personal voyage through the gene keys continues to open up new and daring panoramas within me. Above all, the gene keys have given me inner freedom. At times, I have had to move on from many old systems, teachers, and even friends because their views were neither compatible nor comfortable with such vast inner vistas of freedom. My greatest breakthrough with the gene keys took place as I came to write the 55th gene key, after returning from the USA, where I had been teaching. This gene key is the activation code for freedom itself, so perhaps I should have been more prepared. However, as this gene key opened up inside me, I was shocked to discover how deep was my terror of true freedom. I now realize that this is one of the greatest of all human fears, especially at this time in history. The fear of freedom. When you hear the 55th gene key, you will have a taste of what is to come for humanity. Indeed, the time we are currently living through is referred to throughout this book as the Great Change. It is a change that is taking place at a molecular level within humanity, and it is also impacting all natural systems and all creatures. Everywhere you look today, at the environment, our political and social structures, the world economy, religion, science and technology, you will see a world preparing itself for a leap in consciousness. Such times are inherently unstable, and a deep collective fear of the coming change is moving like a specter through our world. It is this fear that the 55th gene key directly challenges. As I dove deeper and deeper into this fear and encountered the living transmission field of the 55th gene key within me, a vast and unbridled sense of inner freedom swept through my body like a tornado. I touched the simplicity of the freedom that comes when your mind is relieved of control over your life. The fear simply evaporated. Another, far more powerful presence awoke inside my solar plexus and stepped into the driving seat. A new awareness dawned within me, opening its eyes like a newborn baby in my heart. The rush was immense. Released from inside my DNA, light was pouring out of my body, connecting me to every conceivable aspect of the universe. I learned then the greater inner secret of DNA itself. Your DNA is a wormhole. It contains a code that, when activated, opens up to the core of the holographic universe. As such, the DNA molecule is really a transducer of light. The more open the wormhole is, the more light pours through it. Like a torus, it both draws light towards itself and emanates it outward. Eventually, so much light will radiate through you that the wormhole itself collapses. The resulting supernova reveals to you your true universal nature as one with all creation. This is the highest role of the 64 gene keys, to illuminate your path towards this final glorious flowering, union with your own divinity. Then perhaps your eyes too will blaze with the fire of pure knowing, deep compassion, and fearless freedom as you emerge triumphant, like St. Benedict, from the cave of your old self. Part 2. The 64 Gene Keys, a book that talks to your DNA. Who, what, and wherever you are, if you are not continually transcending, then you are dying. The third gene key. The age of synthesis. As the great change gradually dawns within humanity, much that we now take for granted in the world will be transformed. One of the greatest shifts currently taking place in the human sphere is in the role of science. For hundreds of years now, science has been founded upon the left brain approach of observing nature objectively and making logical assumptions based upon empirical evidence. However, given that the new human being, Homo sanctus, will no longer operate primarily from mental awareness, a whole new way of seeing the world will emerge. In fact, it will no longer be possible to observe life without being life. To a fixed modern logical mind, this is not an easy thing to understand. A fundamental change is coming to our brain structure, and even today we see its early manifestations. We are entering the age of synthesis. True synthesis can only come about when the left and right hemispheres of the human brain are in balance. This means that a new kind of thinking is emerging in humanity. It is really not thinking at all, but knowing. For example, as you hear the words in this book, there may be insights within it that you simply know to be true right to the core of your being. This kind of intuitive knowing becomes stronger and more consistent as your life becomes more harmonious. What is occurring is that you are tapping into a fundamental holographic pattern found throughout the universe. The same geometry found in your genes is also found in vast wheeling galaxies. As the great change moves through your DNA, it begins to realign every aspect of your life, bringing you gradually into harmony with these omnipresent universal patterns. The 64 gene keys herald this new approach to truth, since they are the core archetypes found in every conceivable aspect of our universe. The 64-bit matrix is integral to physics, biology, music, geometry, architecture, computer programming, and most fields of human research and endeavor. They form the foundational tetrahedral structure underlying space-time itself. It is therefore no wonder that they continue to be discovered at the core of all natural systems. As we shall see, our very DNA is based on this same 64-fold geometry, making us a holographic microcosm of the entire cosmos. Many of the great ancient civilizations and wisdom traditions, including the Vedic, Egyptian, Mayan, and Chinese, encoded this mathematical structure into their art, cosmology, and science. Wherever we look, from the structure of our cells to the rhythm and movement of the celestial bodies, we see the same fractal patterns, endlessly repeating themselves in ever more unique shapes and forms. The Gene I Ching. One of the best-known systems based on this grid of 64 is the Chinese I Ching, the Book of Changes. This extraordinary system, whose mysterious roots date back thousands of years, is one of the major inspirations for the gene keys. Generations of sages and lay people have used the I Ching as an oracular tool to help them make clear decisions in harmony with nature. More than this, however, the I Ching provides an extensive digital map of the energy dynamics within all living systems. This is especially fascinating because of its mathematical similarity to the genetic code. Many scientists, metaphysicians, and mystics have begun to probe this striking relationship between DNA and the I Ching. Without diving into a deep treatise on the subject, here is a simple version of the relationship between the I Ching and the genetic code. Your DNA is made up of two strands of nucleotides, one strand being a perfect reflection of the other. This binary pattern is also the foundation of the yin and yang of the I Ching. Your genetic code is also made up of 4 bases, which are arranged in groupings of 3. Each of these chemical groupings relates to an amino acid and forms what is known as a codon. There are 64 of these codons in your genetic code. Similarly, in the I Ching, there are only 4 basic permutations of yin and yang, which are also arranged in groups of 3s known as trigrams. In the same way that the 2 strands of your DNA reflect each other, each trigram has a partner. Together, these 2 symbols create the hexagram, the basis of the I Ching. Just as there are 64 codons in DNA, so there are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. This precise mathematical correlation between the I Ching and the genetic code allows us to create a new holistic language that resonates within the living cells of your body. In effect, the 64 gene keys are a gene I Ching, a book that talks directly to your DNA. A genetic download of freedom. Now that we have covered some simple background information on the gene keys, we can begin to look at how they actually work. I would like to invite you to approach the gene keys in a completely original way. First of all, I would like you to let go of all the normal rules you have learned for listening to a book. This is not a normal book. It is a genetic download specifically designed to penetrate the building blocks of your everyday reality, your DNA. Secondly, as you enter into this process of digesting the gene keys, I would like you to begin imagining what your life would look like in your wildest dreams. It doesn't matter so much what specifics your mind fabricates. What is important is that you recapture inside yourself a feeling of absolute inner freedom. The Gene Keys process is about you giving yourself freedom, and this freedom begins in your imagination. You have to open yourself up to the highest possibilities of your own nature. As this process continues, it will most likely put you in touch with some very deep fears. The good news is that you no longer need fear these fears. We now know that they are inherited ancestral fears carried in the DNA of the bloodlines of all human beings. We understand that they had to be there for our survival as a species. The Gene Keys offer you the opportunity to face and eradicate each of the specific fears that stand in the way of your freedom. Every day a scientist somewhere in the world discovers something new and amazing about DNA. Genetics is one of the hottest and newest frontiers in all of science. Even so, some of the greatest scientific insights in this field may lie way ahead in our future. But you do not have to wait for science to prove anything to your mind. You already have direct access to the laboratory of your DNA just because you are alive. You will discover that your DNA is simply waiting for you to input the right code. Once it has received your instructions, it will run the new program and build you a new body, a new life, and a new reality. The evidence is lying within you. Let's take a little tour around your laboratory and have a look at some of the equipment nature has given you. Take a moment to look at the palm of your hand and observe your own skin. It is made up of millions of tiny skin cells. Let's take a look inside just one of those cells now. The basic elements of a cell are threefold. There is an outer membrane, an inner mantle, cytoplasm, containing the working machinery of the cell, and a nucleus containing the cellular DNA and its instructions. You have about 60 trillion of these cells in your body, all with different roles and responsibilities. But most importantly, every single cell in your body right now is doing two essential things. It is listening and it is responding. Each cell is listening to your environment through its countless molecular antennae embedded in the cellular membrane. This cellular skin interprets the environmental signals and relays the corresponding instructions to the DNA within the nucleus of the cell. Your DNA then responds by activating the necessary machinery within the cell. It is rather like a captain of a steamship relaying information from his lookouts down to the engine room. If the lookouts spot an obstacle, they alert the captain, and he orders the workers in the engine room to either open or close the furnaces that drive the turbines or shift the gears that engage the propeller. In your body, it is the same. The molecular switches in your cells tell the DNA which genes to switch on and which genes to switch off. This process goes on in all 60 trillion cells all the time, day and night, as long as you are alive. And you are designed to unlock the awesome molecular power stored within your body. Now, let's have a look inside the engine room, the nucleus of the cell. Here we can see the familiar double helix shape of DNA. What most people don't realize is that, as a salt, DNA is a natural conductor of electricity. It is extremely sensitive to electromagnetic waves. Even a slight shift in your mood will create enough of an environmental signal to trigger a response from your DNA. Likewise, a negative or a positive thought will generate a subtle electromagnetic current throughout your body that will stir your DNA into some form of biological response. Most of us are completely unaware of how our moods, thoughts, beliefs, and general attitude literally mold our bodies. Because of the heightened sensitivity of your DNA, everything in your life, from the food you eat to the people you live with, is co-creating your body via your attitude. Your attitude determines the nature of the electromagnetic signals that reach your DNA. For example, if you are having a bad day and find yourself in a negative frame of mind, this attitude will generate a low-frequency impulse throughout your body. Your DNA will respond to this by shutting down certain hormonal pathways in your brain, and you will feel sad, depressed, or frustrated. On the other hand, if you are having a bad day and are able to break out of your negative mindset and laugh at yourself, a high-frequency electrical signal will reach your DNA and you will feel lighter and more joyful. Your DNA will respond by activating certain hormonal signals that will lead to your day feeling much brighter. The process of programming your DNA through attitude is the foundation of the well-known placebo effect and is also the core of an important new branch of genetics known as epigenetics. Epigenetics is the study of how the environment affects your genes. This exciting new field of biology is far more holistic in nature than the old models we all learned at school. With epigenetics, when we extend the idea of environmental impact to the electromagnetic world of quantum physics, then it must also include human attitude. At a quantum level, your environment is your attitude. What all of this means is that you can never be a victim of your DNA. Neither can you be a victim of fate. You can only be a victim of your attitude. Every thought you think, every feeling you have, every word you utter, and every action you take directly programs your genes and therefore your reality. Consequently, at a quantum level, you create the environment that programs your genes. In the following section, we will learn more about how this works and how you can create the optimal environment to unlock the highest potential in your DNA. This is the great secret that the gene keys hold, the secret of freedom. As you discover it for yourself, your life will be transformed before your very eyes. Part 3. The language of light. In the beginner's mind, there are infinite possibilities. In the expert's, there are few. Suzuki. The ancient art of contemplation. If I had to say in a single line what the gene keys are, I would say they are a universal language made up of 64 genetic archetypes. If I had to say what the gene keys do, I would say they allow you to completely re-envision yourself and recreate your life at a level limited only by your own imagination. The gene keys are also a transmission. In Buddhism, there is a wonderful word known as Dharma. It is one of those words pregnant with many dimensions of meaning. It points towards the existence of a higher truth or universal law pervading the universe. Because the realization of the Dharma is beyond words, its transmission can only be received through silence and deep meditative absorption. The gene keys are just such a transmission. As archetypes, they each contain a fractal aspect of the same universal truth. As genetic archetypes, they allow you to resonate that truth deep within each cell of your body. This brings us to a very important point that you must know before you enter the living Dharma field of the gene keys. Because the gene keys are a transmission beyond words, they will not yield their secrets to an intellectual, grasping mind. The more you chase after them with your mind, the more frustrated you may become. As archetypes, the gene keys are designed to be contemplated, and contemplation demands relaxation and patience. Contemplation is one of the greatest and least understood of the ancient mystical arts and paths. The 3 classic paths to truth. There are 3 classic paths that lead towards higher consciousness. They are meditation, concentration, and contemplation. Even though each path is markedly different, they all lead to the same final goal, absorption, which we will hear more about later. Meditation is the great passive art in which all forms, thoughts, and feelings are simply witnessed exactly as they are. Over time, this continued witnessing gives way to the natural arising of great inner clarity, which culminates in an enlightened view of the nature of reality. Meditation is rooted in the holistic right hemisphere of the brain. Concentration, on the other hand, is the path of effort. Through concentration, you strive with your heart, mind, and soul to reunite your inner being with your true higher nature. Most mystical systems and all types of yoga are based on the path of concentration. Concentration is rooted in the left hemisphere of the brain. Through a gradual process of continual refinement, this path too arrives at an enlightened view of the nature of reality. Right in the middle of these 2 paths is contemplation. Contemplation utilizes aspects of both meditation and concentration. It is rooted in the corpus callosum, that part of the brain that unites both left and right hemispheres. Contemplation involves a kind of cellular digestion. You take the object of your contemplation and you concentrate your whole being on it, but without any effort or tension. In a certain sense, you play with it with your mind, your feelings, and your intuition. It is as though you are holding the velvet case of a diamond ring in your hands and continuously running your fingers gently over it, enjoying the sensation and the mystery of not knowing what lies inside. Then, at some unknown moment, your fingers suddenly and unexpectedly discover the tiny hidden catch embedded in the deep folds of velvet. All of a sudden, the case opens and the treasure is revealed. This is how the gene keys are best approached. In a spirit of deep relaxation, true intelligence is activated through the patience and softness of the heart, and only later confirmed by the mind. Here you need to be a lover of mystery with a beginner's mind, rather than arriving as an expert determined to solve a riddle. The spectrum of consciousness, a neurolinguistic alphabet. As you enter the gene keys, you are stepping into a world of words. The words themselves are simply pointers and codes that invite you to move into a state that lies beyond words. All words resonate within the chambers of your body. They carry frequencies in and out of your being. If, for example, you take the word conflict and sound it silently within your mind, it creates an electromagnetic pulse that is heard throughout your body. If you then imagine the feeling that this word engenders, you send an even more powerful signal into the inner recesses of your physiology. Remember, your DNA is so incredibly sensitive that it hears everything and responds accordingly. At the end of this book, you will find a table of words known as the spectrum of consciousness. These are the specific word codes that relate to each of the 64 gene keys. You will learn that each gene key spans this spectrum and is divided into 3 levels or frequency bands known as the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi. The spectrum of consciousness is your personal genetic programming language. It is really a neurolinguistic alphabet, which is to say that as you apply these words and their meanings to your own life, they will deprogram and reprogram your genes with healthy high-frequency electromagnetic signals. The goal of the gene keys is first to deprogram your DNA of all its low-frequency patterns, the shadows. Then, reprogram your cells with the higher frequency patterns of your genius, the gifts and siddhis. For the sake of clarity, let's summarize everything we have learned thus far before we move deeper into the language of the spectrum of consciousness and learn how to activate the gene keys themselves. You have seen how your genes hold the blueprints of your nature, while it is the environment that determines how they are activated via the cellular membrane. You also know that the concept of environment must be extended to include your thoughts and feelings and words, all of which generate subtle electromagnetic signals that have a profound effect on your DNA. You have been introduced to the gene keys, a highly specific language whose purpose is to communicate directly with your genes in order to adapt their functioning and effect a transformation throughout your whole being. Finally, you have learned that the primary means of working with the gene keys is through the art of contemplation, a playful but sustained method of ingesting the truths that they contain. Locks, keys, and codes. The path from the shadow to the siddhi. The 64 shadows. Your passage through the underworld. As you begin to enter this new language of the gene keys, you will be traveling through a world of vibrations. All life is simply vibration, and as we have seen, your DNA creates your life based upon the frequency of the vibration it receives. Fear generates a low-frequency energy field, whereas love generates a high-frequency energy field. Different frequency bands activate different codes within your DNA. For example, your body contains a code that, when unlocked, will manifest a feeling of peacefulness so profound it will actually silence the thoughts passing through your mind. However, your genes can only create this state when you send extremely high-frequency energy to your cells. This is why such higher states are referred to as being hidden in your DNA. They are hidden by the lower frequencies known as the shadow frequencies. The 64 shadow frequencies are states of consciousness that many people consider normal in human beings. In some cases, we are even told these attributes are healthy, which is definitely not the case. The 64 shadow frequencies form a collective energy field that is generated by ancient genetic memories from the time when we were part of the animal kingdom. The primary focus of the 64 shadows is individual survival based on fear, and as such, they always stimulate the oldest parts of the brain and its related physiology. Despite the incredible evolution of the human brain over hundreds of thousands of years, the group consciousness of humanity is still powerfully influenced by these ancient fear-based codes. No matter how positive you try to be in life, if you do not become fully aware of your own shadow frequency patterns, your so-called dark side, you will never be able to unlock the higher frequencies. This is the real work of the gene keys, to give you an inner language that allows you to face the unconscious fears at work inside you. Just by dint of being born, you have inherited some ancestral memories and fears that actually have no root in your current lifetime. They come from the collective human gene pool. When you work with the shadow gene keys, you are working with real physiological fears lodged deep in your unconscious, as well as the collective unconscious. As your contemplation of the shadow frequencies stirs up these ancient codes in your DNA, you will begin to see how much of your life and the world around you is governed by these frequencies rooted in fear. By bringing awareness to these hidden aspects of your unconscious on a daily basis, you will gradually and effectively disarm them. The authentic you. In regard to the 64 shadows, you will also notice that each one operates either through a repressed expression or a reactive expression. Depending on your character, your culture, and the nature of your childhood conditioning, you are more likely to act upon one more than the other of these energetic patterns. The repressed nature manifests as a more introverted psychological pattern rooted in fear, whereas the reactive nature is more extroverted and manifests as anger, which is really fear turned outwards. It is also common for many human beings to move and swing between both of these poles, so it is important to consider both. As you listen and contemplate the gene keys, and particularly their shadows, keep in mind that the foundation of this journey is about becoming authentic. When you know and understand your own shadows, you become an authentic human being, one whose frequency automatically evolves to higher and higher levels through the power of self-acceptance. The beginning of your voyage into the gene keys can be a most challenging time, as the keys unlock the very codes that you have been avoiding for so long. It is quite a revelation to realize that you have locked yourself out of the higher frequencies because you are caught in these repressed and reactive shadow patterns. But take heart from every insight and breakthrough that comes your way. Each time you make a leap, the frequency of your DNA leaps with you. This inner process takes time and requires as much patience as courage, but as you stay with the process, so you begin to taste the higher frequencies pulsing through your blood. This is an indescribable gift because it signifies the rebirth of the real you, the authentic you. The 64 gifts, the opening of your heart. Every shadow contains a gift. This is the heart of the transmission of the gene keys. It is one of the amazing twists woven into the human story. The basis for all our myths, fables, novels, movies, and stories is that our suffering contains the seed of our eventual transcendence. When you accept and embrace your shadows, they suddenly reveal their true nature, and a new creative impulse is released through you. Inside your DNA, a subtle but potent mutation takes place. In genetics, a mutation refers to a change in the way the genetic code is copied within the cell, which leads to a change in the way proteins are made, which in turn leads to a change in your biochemistry. As your shadows reveal your hidden gifts, the whole tempo of your life changes. Your blood chemistry changes, your biorhythms change, your moods stabilize, your eating patterns shift, and your general attitude to life becomes uplifting and optimistic. All of these changes occur naturally and in their own time as you continue to contemplate the gene keys. Once you have begun the process of transforming your shadows, the view you have of yourself and your entire belief system undergoes a quantum leap. As you begin to live more and more at the gift frequencies, you even find yourself opening up to the possibility of attaining the very highest states, known as the 64 siddhis. The higher the frequency of your DNA, the more sensitive you become to the energy fields around you. This can be a challenge for you, since much of the world operates at the shadow frequencies. However, the nature of the gift frequency is to open your heart, especially towards the shadows. Once you know the shadows inside yourself, evolution will begin to use you to raise the frequency of others, which will undoubtedly draw you into some form of service. Awakening the power of your aura. The human body emits a range of subtle bioelectric energy signatures, which taken together form a powerful electromagnetic field known as the aura. Over 100 different cultures have given names to this phenomenon, so it is in no way a new revelation. What is new is the understanding that the DNA molecule's primary role in the body, even before protein synthesis, is, in fact, electromagnetic reception and transmission. By converting frequency into chemistry, your DNA generates the overall vitality and quality of your aura. As the gift frequency grows in your life, so your aura grows. Your aura is directly linked with your health and with your ability to generate and transmit light waves out into your environment. Within your body, higher frequencies open your heart and flood you with periodic rushes of love and even ecstasy. Such waves reach right into the auric fields of others, where they can unlock blocked pathways and give you access to powerful healing energies. In recent years, the human aura has also been likened to an attractor field. Through its frequency, it attracts similar frequencies towards itself, which is the foundation of all relationship attraction. More than this, however, as your aura expands, it begins to bring you into a deeper harmony with the greater rhythms of the cosmos, and this in turn produces potent manifestations in your life. Your aura engages the power of synchronicity, the universal law of good fortune. This draws prosperity into your life at all levels. It unites you with your true allies in life through their natural resonance with your expanding energy field. Every one of the 64 gifts unlocks a particular genius that then finds expression through the radiance of your aura. The 64 Cities, an encyclopedia of enlightenment. As your contemplation of the gene keys continues to deepen and activate the gifts in your life, your frequency becomes gradually higher and more refined. At a certain point in this process, contemplation spontaneously gives way to absorption. Absorption is a very high-frequency state of consciousness in which your DNA begins to trigger your endocrine system to secrete certain rarefied hormones on a continual basis. These hormones, which include pinealine, harmine, and melatonin, are associated with higher brain functioning and involve states of spiritual illumination and transcendence. Absorption can only occur when your aura is generating a frequency high enough to continually feed off its own electromagnetic field. At such a stage, it is no longer possible to be drawn back into the lower frequencies for more than brief periods of time. Both the gift frequency and the city frequency involve quantum leaps in consciousness. The group consciousness of humanity stands poised to make the huge transition out of the shadow frequency and into a newly stabilized awareness in the gift frequency. This is what will catalyze a global genetic mutation. At the same time, there is another far smaller group of human beings poised to make the transition from the gift to the siddhi frequency. The word siddhi comes from the Sanskrit, meaning divine gift. There exists much ancient lore surrounding the siddhis. There is even an established tradition that states there are exactly 64 of them. In the context of the gene keys, the 64 siddhis are the biological expressions of the ultimate human state of enlightenment. They are quite literally an encyclopedia of the many expressions of spiritual realization. Your DNA is a superconductor. Before a human being makes a quantum leap to the rarefied and wordless realms of the siddhis, some unusual phenomena must occur. A vast amount of your DNA, over 90%, appears to geneticists to serve no purpose whatsoever. It has therefore earned the unglamorous name junk DNA. This is a huge misinterpretation of the true role of this type of DNA. It is the junk DNA that holds the entire collective memory patterns of your past, not just your past as a human, but also your distant past as an animal, a reptile, and, going even further back, a plant and a bacterium. Before you can attain a siddhic state, all this genetic memory has to be purged from your DNA. This also means that as your frequency becomes higher and higher, you have to process deeper and deeper shadow patterns that come from our collective ancestral past. Known in the Indian yogic tradition as sanskaras, these ancient shadow frequencies are literally wound around all human DNA. The only thing that can unwind them is light itself. Research into DNA has demonstrated that one of its more unusual electromagnetic properties is its ability to attract photons, elementary light particles, causing them to spiral along the double helix. It is this ability of DNA to weave light around itself that reveals its true hidden role within your body. To act as a superconductor whose sole purpose is to exponentially increase the frequency passing in and out of your body. This in turn leads to a complete transmutation of the fabric of your being. This very rare phenomenon is theoretically known as a transposition burst and involves the sudden and synchronized movement of thousands of DNA elements inside your body to new and different genetic locations. It signifies the extraordinary birth of a completely new kind of human being, Homo Sanctus, the sacred human. When you consider this passage from the shadow to the city, perhaps you can see what an awesome evolutionary voyage the gene keys represent. They are the original inner language of light, and even though woven from words, those words are really nothing more than the frequencies of light itself. The gene keys are simply the messengers that you send into the living structure of your DNA, and their role is to instruct the DNA to build you a higher body, fully equipped to handle a far more joyous life. Even the deepest fears in your body are nothing more than low-frequency patterns that obscure the pure and radiant light that lies at the heart of your DNA. The voyage through the gene keys is a great adventure into the final frontier of inner space. It will call upon the warrior spirit inside you to face the personal and collective demons that lurk within your cellular DNA. Nonetheless, armed with the art of playful yet focused contemplation and a healthy dose of patience and courage, you will make it through to the highest levels of human potential. Always remember, this is not a complicated journey. Your mind may try and make it complicated, but it is really as natural as breathing. Your contemplation of the gene keys can go on while you are about your everyday life, working, cleaning the dishes, looking after the children, relaxing, sleeping, and even dreaming. The pattern of your gene keys will automatically manifest, so all you have to do is listen and learn. The life playing out before you is a mirror of what is occurring inside your DNA. If you are contemplating it, it will appear as if by magic, right before your eyes. Navigation tools. Before beginning any voyage into unknown territory, it is always a good idea to prepare. The language you will find in the gene keys uses specific terms drawn from a wide variety of fields. As you move through this labyrinth of new ideas, concepts, and feelings, you may need to adjust yourself to this new terminology. When you look at each gene key, you will notice that it is related to an aspect of your physiology and an amino acid, is part of a genetic family called a codon ring, and has a programming partner. Each of these aspects is a portal for your further contemplation. In the back of this book, you will find a resource called the Glossary of Personal Empowerment. This is a profound guide to all the major terms and concepts in the gene keys, and it also describes their practical application to your life as well as their meanings. It is important to remember that each of the terms used within this book have specific meanings within the context of the overall synthesis of the gene keys. These meanings may differ from more traditional interpretations of the words. You are recommended to use the glossary as an ongoing font of meaning and inspiration. As you will discover, it is far more than just a glossary. When contemplated over time, every term contains an empowerment designed to raise the frequency of your DNA. Programming partners. One of the biggest insights into the gene keys comes from a close understanding of the pairing of shadows, gifts, and siddhis. As the ancient Chinese sages developed the I Ching, their book of changes, they discovered many different ways of adapting and amplifying their revelation. A major breakthrough came when the 64 archetypes, known as hexagrams, were arranged in a circle as opposed to being seen as a linear sequence from 1 to 64. This circular arrangement of the gene keys allows you to see how each gene key operates as one half of a binary programming field. When you contemplate the gene keys alongside their programming partners, you can see how these genetic pairings create biofeedback loops within your body, mind, and emotions, either blocking or releasing the higher frequencies. the 21 codon rings. In genetics, the role of the genes in your cells is to synthesize and blend various amino acids in order to make proteins, which are the building blocks of your life. The major amino acids are also grouped into genetic families, which are known in this book as the 21 codon rings. Each of these codon rings has a specific name, and they act as collective programming bodies within the greater body of humanity itself. Much of our human mythology emerged from these chemical groupings, and each ring contains great mysteries. They have direct connections to many of the original sacred alphabets, such as the Hebrew alphabet, as well as a relationship to the rich symbolism of the tarot. Their deeper significance lies outside the domain of this book, but as you consider the gene keys through these codon rings, you may also unlock their secrets from within your own DNA. Above all, this is your voyage, and how daring you are is completely up to you. Part 4. Angles of Approach to the Gene Keys. Walking your own path. There is a wonderful expression by St. Augustine, solvitur ambulando, which means, by walking, it is solved. You can take this as the creed of the gene keys. Whatever question you have about any aspect of your life, the gene keys will point the way to an answer, simply because they point the way inward, which is where you will always find the answers. All you have to do is keep walking, continuing in your quest. The original Chinese I Ching is an oracle with the capacity to guide any decision you make in life. The gene keys take this much further by guiding you into the actual living I Ching inside your genes. Once this book has done its job, you will never again have to look outside yourself for truth. Throughout this introduction, this book has been represented to you as a voyage, an adventure into a great mystery, the mystery of who you are and why you are here. As you will see, there are many different pathways you can take into the gene keys. As well as this book, there are a host of different tools and systems that utilize the gene keys in myriad different ways. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by all these different paths, I encourage you to pace yourself and find the way that feels most comfortable to you. As you may now realize, the gene keys are a living transmission rather than just another information system. Therefore, they will only yield their secrets to a relaxed and contemplative attitude. The quality of the first steps you take determines the shape of the journey to come. So know that you are welcome here. There is plenty of time for you to explore the gene keys at whatever level you wish. Analog and digital. At the broadest level, there are two ways you can approach the gene keys: the analog way, which embraces the holistic view, and the digital way, which dives into the detail and the parts. Life is made up of both, and it is beneficial to maintain a healthy balance between the two. As we have seen, our DNA itself is a digital binary code laid down in patterns and sequences that can be interpreted in a logical binary way. The analog way is completely different. It is mysterious, playful, spontaneous, and intuitive. The higher frequencies can only be unlocked by the analog way, but the digital way is how we ground those frequencies and experiences into our mental understanding. It is the combining of both analog and digital that results in contemplation, the primary pathway into the gene keys. Analog sequences, allowing the magic to occur. In light of that, you are invited to create your own analog pathway into the gene keys while your intellectual understanding travels underneath. Your natural genius can only flower through your heart. The intellect can be the great enemy of your natural genius. However, when you allow the gene keys to sing inside your heart, your intellect finds its natural place, serving your heart, rather than trying to lead it. I therefore recommend that you travel through the gene keys in a non-sequential way, as this will distract your intellect and unlock your own unique passages and pathways through the matrix. This is the kind of book that needs to be allowed to fall open randomly to different pages at different times in the spirit of the magic of the original I Ching. Through playing in the field of the gene keys in this analog way, you will learn the true mystery of sequences. We tend to see sequences as digital, for example from 1 to 10. But inside your DNA, there are geometric sequences that follow no clear logical pattern. Perhaps in your journey through the gene keys, you will return to one specific gene key over and over again until you learn that lesson. Perhaps certain gene keys will be held back until you are ready to activate them inside. Allow yourself to dip and dive through the text and find your own unique sequence. Remember that your voyage through the gene keys is also taking place in your physical biochemistry. Every gene key is linked through the DNA directly to your endocrine system, which influences everything inside your physical body, from your breathing pattern to your heart rate. Your attitude talks to your genes talk to your glands, and your glands reorganize your life in line with a higher harmony. There will undoubtedly be times in your process in which the light inside your DNA seems very dim and far away. Your attitude during such times is of utmost importance. You may have arrived at a turning point in your own sequence, and you must honor the feelings that come up inside you. Your sequence can never be wrong. Understand that your DNA is throwing up a shadow pattern so that you can erase it from your genetic memory forever. In every person's sequence, there are twists and turns that lead to revelations, insights, and breakthroughs. Each revelation you have with this book leaves you different. Every breakthrough causes your DNA to mutate to a higher frequency, which in turn makes you feel and behave differently from before. The real magic comes alive as the inner sequence is reflected in your outer life. Your attractor field changes, and a new outer sequence of events takes place as the cosmos begins to work for you instead of against you. Above all, know that your DNA is a store of miracles waiting to be tapped. Allow yourself to let go of all the normal rules you may have for approaching a book. Let the words fly and enjoy the flow of analog magic as it unlocks those miracles. Digital sequences. Stepping into the hologram. Once you have imbibed the spirit and magic of the analog way, your voyage with the gene keys will begin in earnest. You can then take a dive into digital Disneyland. As said earlier in the introduction, our current scientific understanding of the universe is changing rapidly and radically, and the picture that is emerging is nothing short of mind-shattering. Quantum physics shows us that everything we see in the universe appears to be reflected in everything else in the universe. The mind itself, enmeshed as it is with the very stuff of the cosmos, can no longer be relied upon for objective reasoning. Consciousness studies, a field avoided by science for generations, is now becoming one of the hottest new areas for scientific exploration. Accordingly, As you play with the gene keys, you should know what you are getting yourself into. You are stepping into the heart of the holographic universe and entering the programming matrix for all life. Every frequency shift you experience inside your DNA will affect every single atom in our universe. As you evolve, so all beings will evolve with you. In the digital universe, the holistic fabric of all life is subdivided into its infinite fractal aspects. All these diverse elements, relationships, and systems can then be dismantled and viewed from a microcosmic perspective, bringing increased understanding for us as individuals. In other words, if you really want to get to the bottom of something, you have to take it apart. This is the foundation of the digital way. Your hologenetic profile. Every human being is born with a unique sacred geometry embedded deeply within their being. This geometry can be plotted through the precise timing and placement of your birth in our constantly shifting universe. This same structure is also holographically encoded in your DNA, forming a distinct personal profile of genetic patterns and digital sequences, each of which relates to a different aspect of your life. This is your hologenetic profile, the original blueprint that tells us who you are, how you operate, and above all, why you are here. Your hologenetic profile is a personalized map of the various genetic sequences that will unlock or awaken different aspects of your genius. There are sequences governing your life purpose, your relationship patterns, your financial prosperity, your family dynamics, your developmental cycles as a child, your health and healing, and your spiritual awakening. Each sequence has its unique application in the world and comes with its own set of tools and teachings. One example is the relationship sequence, known as the Venus sequence. This system accurately pinpoints specific mental issues and emotional blocks lying within an individual's DNA. Such blockages can cause common difficulties in human relationships and health. Through simple techniques of pattern recognition using the gene keys, any individual can be guided to see their self-destructive tendencies and transmute them into far more beneficial patterns. The Venus sequence has been shown repeatedly to have huge transformative effects on countless relationships and individuals. You may choose to enter the gene keys through one of their many applications, like the Venus sequence, or you can simply contemplate this book as a whole. Either way, it is important to know that when you raise the frequency in one area of your life, you will also be raising it in all the others. Contemplation, absorption, and embodiment. The core pathway. Your voyage into the gene keys begins with contemplation. Even as you have been listening to this introduction, your contemplation has begun. The truths inherent in these teachings are already entering your aura, where they must be allowed to percolate. The art of contemplation is about patience and digestion. If you have an open mind, then the transmission of the gene keys will move deeper into your feeling body, the astral body. Depending on your own readiness to receive the higher frequencies, your DNA will respond when the transmission reaches down into your physical body. In order for this to occur, it must first pass through your mind and your feelings. At any point, the transmission may come up against a blockage or shadow pattern. In your mind, this may appear as a judgment, opinion, or belief. Through your emotions, it may show up as a repressed unconscious memory or a constrictive emotional pattern, such as guilt, shame, or fear. Such shadow patterns lie hidden inside all human DNA, and contemplation on the gene keys will bring them naturally to light. As you journey into the gene keys, keep your inner ears open at all times, and listen to your natural responses, gut feelings, and thoughts. Anything that causes you discomfort is of primary importance, and I recommend you give it your full attention. This is a deeply personal voyage you are on, and as you allow the higher frequencies to resonate inside you, through thinking about them, through feeling your way inside them, and through practicing them, they will find their way into your waiting DNA. You will know when a high-frequency pattern in your DNA has been unlocked because your body, mind, and heart will feel it as a rush of illumination. Such moments are to be treasured, and as your contemplation deepens, they will come more often. Absorption occurs when the body opens up at a cellular level to receive the nutrients from the higher planes of reality. It requires deep emotional maturity and great mental clarity. In the state of absorption, your aura swells as your DNA begins to suck light into the cells of your body. At this stage, even your physical body is contemplating its highest nature, and you begin to taste the siddhis, the highest manifestations of your genius. As the cells of your physical body become more and more accustomed to these higher frequencies, you begin to embody the heart of the transmission that the gene keys have been pointing you towards. This final stage of embodiment is the culmination of your contemplation. As you enter into this beautiful state, you find that you no longer need techniques or tools. Embodiment, making the leap beyond light speed. Embodiment brings an end to all words and explanations. Even though you may still use words, you have now entered into the language of light itself, which is represented by the 64 siddhis. You will see at this stage how the gene keys are simply messengers that relay information in and out of the cell in order that this miracle beyond words can occur. As you recognize yourself to be a part of a higher evolution, your life's work and your inner purpose finally come into alignment. You are part of the grand awakening. You are a DNA molecule within the body of humanity, and you are fully awake. Your only role is to begin programming all the cells around you with the new higher frequencies. As you embody the transmission of awakening, you will find your own voice, and you will adapt your language for those who are drawn to your radiance. You will realize that it is not the language that matters, it is the frequency of the message and the messenger. When you look at the children of the world today, you can easily see the disenchantment in their eyes as their natural state of innocence meets the modern world we have created. What these children need most of all now is for us to reclaim our own innocence and bring our romantic genius back into the world. The embodiment of the truths inherent in the gene keys is a transmission of pure romance. It demonstrates that magic is alive inside each of us, that anything is possible, and that miracles are inevitable. The future world will be a world created by adults who can see through the eyes of children. The coming genetic mutation from Homo sapiens into Homo sanctus will bring wave after wave of enlightened children into the world who will seek only that which is built on natural cosmic laws, not the old systems which were rooted in fear and competition. As the 55th gene key testifies, it is truly an extraordinary time to be alive. These changes will only occur when you who are hearing this can physically embody the living transmission of light. You will have to come to a point of profound relaxation inside your being in order for this to occur, because embodiment is rooted in relaxation. As we have said, contemplation is the core pathway. It requires a relaxed and reverent attitude. We must at all times remember that shadows are simply shadows, and every one contains a gift. When you change your attitude, you will see that all the shadows are cast by the same light. This is a journey of self-forgiveness. You must be compassionate first and foremost with yourself. As you forgive yourself the shadows, you will be giving yourself the gifts, the 64 gifts. And as you now know, inside every one of the gene keys lies something even more precious. The keys to unlock the higher purpose hidden in your DNA. I hope that you enjoy your voyage through the gene keys and their many applications. They are offered to you in the spirit of a feast for your contemplative delight, because they are also designed to attract others who are ready to embody this new language. I hope that you will continue your voyage beyond this book and explore them as a co-creator, celebrating your own radiance and genius in the ever-expanding field of their mystery.